My name is Daniel, and if you had asked me 3 months ago what my life looked like, I have told you I was exactly where I wanted to be. 32 years old, career on track, a house I'd worked damn hard to buy, and Sophia, my girlfriend of 3 years, sharing it with me. We weren't perfect, but we were close. We had routines, inside jokes, plans. We talked about rings, about vacations, even about names for kids someday. I thought we were solid. I thought we were a team. That illusion lasted until one Monday morning, at exactly 10:07 a.m., when my phone buzzed in the middle of a team meeting. Normally, I don't check my phone during meetings. I'm disciplined like that. But something about the way it lit up on the desk pulled my attention. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe some part of me knew that one vibration carried the weight of a detonated bomb. I glanced down. A message from Sophia. I wasn't prepared for what it said. Asterisk Daniel, I'm pregnant. But it's not yours. It's Mark's. I'm so sorry. We need to talk. Asterisk. I stare at the screen, so long the words burned into my vision. My co-workers' voices blurred into white noise, like I was underwater. The sentence didn't make sense. My brain tried to rearrange it, to twist it into something less absurd. But no matter how I parsed it, the meaning remained. Pregnant. Not mine. Mark's. Mark, her friend from work. The guy she'd been spending extra hours with lately because of some urgent project. I'd seen the text, the late nights, the extra makeup, the laughter at company events that went on just a little too long. I'd had a gnawing suspicion for months, but I told myself I was paranoid. I didn't want to be that boyfriend, the insecure one who accuses without proof. So I shoved the doubts down, plastered on a smile, and trusted her. Turns out my gut had been right all along. The strange thing is, when the confirmation finally hit, I didn't explode. I didn't slam the table or run out of the room. Instead, a weird calm settled over me. A cold clarity, like the moment after lightning strikes and everything is illuminated for a split second. It was as if my emotions short-circuited, and all that was left was strategy. Sophia had delivered her news. She'd made her choice. She wanted to talk. I didn't. When the meeting ended, I walked back to my desk, phone still in hand. I pulled up her contact, read her text one more time, and typed my reply with a steadiness that surprised even me. Congratulations to the father. That was it. No anger. No questions. No begging. Just a statement. Then I blocked her number. The silence that followed was deafening, but in that silence, I felt something unexpected. Control. She had detonated the bomb, yes, but I refused to stand in the blast zone. My shield was cold, decisive detachment. But I wasn't done. There was another player in this drama, Mark. I wasn't about to scream at him or demand an explanation. That wasn't my style. I preferred precision. Something quieter, but sharper. Something that would stick. During lunch, I sat at my desk and pulled up a professional networking site. Within seconds, I found him. Mark, mid-30s, smug smile in his profile picture. The same guy I'd seen her laughing with at the company picnic. Leaning just a little too close. He worked in a different department than Sophia, but same building. Perfect. I memorized the address, then drove to a stationery store. I didn't want a baby card. That would have been too obvious. Too soft. No, I wanted something that would cut. Something that would remind him what he'd actually signed up for. I found it in the sympathy section. A pale gray card with simple black lettering. With deepest condolences. At home, I opened the card and wrote neatly inside. Asterisk, heard about your new upcoming responsibility. Condolences. Sincerely. Daniel. Asterisk. Petty? Maybe, but also surgical. I sealed the card, addressed it to his office, and paid extra for same-day courier delivery. Mark would open it surrounded by his colleagues. He'd know exactly who it was from, and so would anyone who glanced at the card. A private shame made public, wrapped in courtesy. By the time I returned home that evening, the gears of my plan were turning smoothly. Sophia had detonated the bomb, but I was building walls, redirecting the blast back toward her and her accomplice. Now came the house. My house. Every mortgage payment, every repair, every improvement. all mine. Sophia had moved in a year and a half ago, but her name wasn't on a single piece of paper. Not the deed, not the bills, not even the internet account. She was, legally speaking, a guest, and her stay had just ended. Before she could come home and play victim, I needed to secure my ground. I drove to the hardware store, bought new deadbolts, and spent the late afternoon replacing every lock on the exterior doors. Each turn of the screwdriver was oddly therapeutic. By the time the last lock clicked, the house felt lighter, safer. Mine again. Then I turned to her things. I moved through the rooms like an efficient machine. Her clothes, her shoes, the alarming amount of makeup, the trinket she'd scattered on shelves. I packed it all into boxes, labeled them clearly. Sophia. Stacked them neatly by the front door. No anger, no sloppiness, just order. As I worked, memories flickered. Her laugh in the kitchen. The nights we curled up on the couch. The mornings she left coffee by my bedside. Each memory was a shard of glass. But instead of bleeding, I just kept packing. Box after box. Cleaning up the shrapnel of a life I thought was real. By the time I finished, it was nearly 6. Sophia would be home soon. Try her key in a lock that no longer recognized her. She'd call, text, maybe cry. But she couldn't reach me. She was blocked. I poured myself a drink, sat by the window, and waited, the calm before the storm. This was going to be interesting. By the time I finished, it was nearly 6. Sophia would be home soon. Try her key in a lock that no longer welcomed her. I poured a drink, leaned against a window, and waited for the inevitable. At exactly 6:12 p.m., the video doorbell chimed. There she was, looking tired from work, fumbling with her key. She twisted it once, twice, then frowned. Tried again, more forcefully this time. Her expression shifted from confusion to irritation. She pulled out her phone, thumbed the screen, probably dialing me. But she didn't know she was already gone from my world, erased with a block. The knocking came next, soft at first, then harder, then the pounding. Daniel? Daniel, open the door. What the hell is going on? My key isn't working. I let her stew for a good 5 minutes before I finally cracked the door. The chain stayed on. Just a narrow gap between us. Her face lit up with relief. Oh, thank God. I thought something was wrong with the lock. Daniel, listen, we need to talk. I shook my head slowly. It's not your lock anymore, Sophia, and this isn't your house. Her mouth fell open. Don't be ridiculous. Of course it's my house. I live here. You lived here. I corrected. Your belongings are boxed by the door. You can arrange for someone to pick them up. Her eyes darted past me, and she saw the boxes stacked neatly in the hall. The color drained from her face. Daniel, no. Please, don't do this. I made a mistake. I panicked. I didn't mean for it to. I cut her off. A mistake is spilling wine on the carpet. Sleeping with someone else and getting pregnant? That's a choice. She flushed red, voice rising. You can't just throw me out. I have rights. I laughed softly, shaking my head. You don't. Your name isn't on the deed, the mortgage, or even the utility bills. You were a guest, and your stay is over. She blinked, stunned. Then her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced down, and I caught the flicker of panic in her eyes. Mark, no doubt. Right on cue. Her voice sharpened. Daniel, what did you do? Mark just called me. He's freaking out. Something about a card you sent? His colleagues are looking at him weirdly. Did you? I sent my congratulations. I said, calm as ice. It seemed polite to acknowledge the father-to-be. Her lips trembled. You're an ass. This isn't fair. I said I was sorry. I still love you. Love. I raised an eyebrow. You call it love when you crawl into another man's bed? When you come home and kiss me goodnight with his scent still on you. I leaned closer to the crack in the door. Your definition of love is flexible. Mine isn't. Her eyes watered. Real tears or performance I couldn't tell. Where am I supposed to go? I have nowhere. I gave her the faintest smile. I believe Mark has some new responsibilities. Perhaps he can assist. Then I closed the door. The pounding resumed. louder this time. Her voice cracked into shouts, threats, then sobs. I poured another drink and let it wash over me like distant thunder. Eventually, the noise stopped, but my phone buzzed later that night with emails from a new address. First apologetic, then demanding, then angry. I blocked each one. When I thought the night was over, another number lit up my phone. Chloe, her best friend. Daniel, how could you? Sophia's a mess. She's pregnant. You can't just leave her like this. Her condition isn't my responsibility. I told her flatly. She made her choices. Mark was a mistake. She still loves you. You two were so good together. Apparently not good enough, I said, and hung up. Then I blocked Chloe too. The next morning, the calls began from Linda, Sophia's mother. Tearful voicemails, guilt-laden appeals. Daniel, this isn't like you. She's pregnant, for heaven's sake. Have a heart. She needs stability. You owe her that much after 3 years. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I let the messages stack up, each one more desperate than the last. They all had the same undertone, entitlement, as if I was obligated to clean up the wreckage of Sophia's choices. The days that followed blurred into a parade of blocked numbers, unopened emails, and ignored knocks at the door. Sophia escalated from apologies to demands. She insisted I owed her for decorating the house and investing time in our relationship. She demanded money for a hotel. She even tried appealing to my guilt with lines about the innocent child she carried. Each plea hardened my resolve. This wasn't about love anymore. This was about boundaries, about refusing to be manipulated into raising another man's child or financing her mistakes. Sophia had detonated the bomb, and now she was learning what it felt like to stand alone in the blast zone. The week that followed was a masterclass in escalation. Sophia wasn't content to lick her wounds and move on. She launched what felt like a campaign. And though part of me was irritated, another part, colder, sharper, saw each attempt as proof I'd made the right call. The first strike came through finances. I got a call from my bank's fraud department on Friday morning. An authorized user on one of my credit cards, an account I'd nearly forgotten existed, had attempted to make a series of large charges. A hotel downtown for a week, a luxury handbag, a handful of restaurant reservations, nearly maxed the card. I remembered immediately. Sophia always kept that card in her wallet, the emergency card. She must have slipped it out when she left for work the day she dropped the bomb, stashed away for later. The charges have been declined, flagged as suspicious, and the card frozen. I confirmed to the bank that the user was no longer authorized. Within minutes, the account was locked down. A narrow miss, but revealing. She wasn't just looking for a couch to crash on. She was trying to maintain her old lifestyle on my dime. That same night, the fallout from the condolences card reached me indirectly. A mutual acquaintance messaged me. Neutral ground. Someone who wasn't taking sides. The word was out. Mark was furious. Not just at Sophia, but at me, too. That little piece of stationery had detonated more than their secret. Mark's wife had found the card, or rather, his colleagues had seen it, whispered about it, and word spread fast. His marriage cracked open almost instantly. Sophia, it turned out, hadn't just been cheating on me. She'd been the other woman, too. Mark's wife kicked him out. His reputation at work took a hit. No one wants to sit next to a guy who turned the office into a soap opera. The neat irony of it all tasted better than any whiskey I'd ever poured. But Sophia wasn't finished. The guilt campaign doubled down. Linda left more voicemails, long, weepy monologues about Sophia's condition, about how cruel I was to leave her in her time of need. Chloe tried again, too, this time via email. You're being heartless, Daniel. She's carrying life inside her. The least you could do is provide for her until she's on her feet. I deleted them all, blocked new numbers as quickly as they appeared. My silence was my strongest weapon. Every plea ignored chipped away at their control. Then Sophia shifted from guilt to attack. One Tuesday evening, there was a knock at the door. Not hers this time, but 2 uniformed police officers. They stood there with neutral expressions, asking if they could come in. Sophia had filed a report, They explained, claiming I'd stolen her property, a high-end laptop, and several pieces of jewelry she claimed were family heirlooms. I nearly laughed. Instead, I calmly invited them inside. I showed them photos I'd taken before Chloe collected Sophia's boxes. Every single possession packed neatly, nothing missing. I produced a receipt for the laptop, bought years before I'd even met Sophia. My name printed clearly. As for the jewelry, if she had heirlooms, she hadn't kept them here. I packed everything I found. The officers listened, took notes, but I could see the disbelief in their eyes. Not at me, but at her. They'd dealt with messy breakups before. This was another attempt at leverage. After 20 minutes, they left, unconvinced by her story. I closed the door and laughed for real that time, a sharp sound that echoed through the empty house. Sophia was no longer just a manipulator. She'd crossed into calculated extortion, lies, financial fraud, false police reports. Each move more desperate than the last. But desperation has a way of backfiring. By the end of that week, my lawyer drafted a cease and desist. A thick envelope sent to Sophia, to Linda, and to Chloe, laying out in firm legal language that further harassment, false claims, or attempts to contact me would result in immediate legal action for defamation and harassment. The silence after that letter was golden. For the first time in weeks, my phone stayed quiet. My inbox was clean. No knocks, no tears, no guilt trips. Just peace. But the world outside my walls was still unraveling. Mark was drowning in the fallout of his own choices, and Sophia was left twisting in the wreckage, grasping for someone, anyone, to save her. It wasn't going to be me. In the end, the storm burned itself out. Sophia, stripped of her safety nets, drifted from couch to couch, her charm no longer enough to shield her from the mess she'd made. Word spread quickly in our circles about the fraud attempt, the lies, the police stunt. People grew wary. Doors closed in her face. Sympathy dried up when the truth became impossible to ignore. Mark, once her golden escape route, had collapsed under his own scandal. Divorced, disgrace at work, his resources drained in legal fees and alimony. He was no savior. He could barely keep his own head above water. The two of them had torched everything chasing a thrill. All they had left was ashes. As for me, I didn't rebuild overnight. Betrayal leaves scars deeper than most wounds. But each morning without a knock at the door, each day without a desperate voicemail or guilt-ridden plea, I felt lighter. The house that once echoed with tension now hummed with quiet. My routines returned sharper, calmer, steadier. I realized something in that silence. Revenge hadn't been about cruelty. It had been about reclaiming control. Sophia thought she'd hold the power forever, dangling manipulation like chains around my neck. But when I stepped out of her game, when I refused to play, the chains broke. The final act of revenge wasn't the card, the silence, or the cease and desist. It was living free, untouched, unbothered, and entirely beyond her reach. Sophia had gambled with deceit and lost. And I walked away with peace. And with that, our story comes to an end. But the real story begins with your thoughts. What would you do if you were in this situation? Let me know in the comments.